was a long time.
One never knows. Welcome to Section 31, episode number 300. I'm Dan Hammond.
And I am Rogue Schindler.
Congratulations. We're not going to do anything special. This week we're going to talk about we're going to talk about this random Peter Pan thing that I made everybody listen to. And by everybody, I mean me and Rogue. I don't know if anybody else took us up on it, and to which I apologize. We're also talking a little bit about Through the Looking Glass, which is out, and look ahead to this weekend. We didn't have a tournament this weekend, so all right.
Well, yeah. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. All right. Very good.
Regional.
Yes, the regional in 2 weeks. Awesome. All right. This is first edition, so have you already begun building a deck?
Well, I just got back from WonderCon, so no.
All right. Well, then
but I've thought about it, and I have an idea for a deck, but I'm torn between playing that and the new set. So
yeah, it's tough to not want to throw all that stuff in. I mean, just there are one or two cards in there. The was it Protect the Timeline?
Yeah, that's really good.
Makes me want to play Starfleet again. I just played Starfleet. I want to put this in that deck and make it just go that much faster. The one that we spoiled last time, was it the event that you just pitch a card off the top of your deck and just start to get extra card draws?
I realized after we had talked about it that would be really good for Starfleet too, because it doesn't specify, it's just past.
Yeah, now we're not gonna
or AU.
It's it's not going to work because there aren't any past Terran Empire personnel yet. Right?
Right, but we know that's coming because, I mean, it certainly imply otherwise that Comm Officer Hoshi is just kind of floating by herself.
That's right. Is Comm Officer Hoshi legal?
Not until she's released, right? Was she in this? I don't think she was in this set.
No, she's coming out in the next set. I just remember back in the day, could you play those preview cards before the set came out? I don't remember what the rule is. I feel like
you could, but I think most of them were so previewy that there was not really a good way to play them. Like 7 came out before there was really Borg, I think.
Yeah, but if I remember, you could play. Was it Garrick? You could play non-aligned Cardassian.
Yeah, and I mean Admiral Riker was really good. I mean, and that white border version was the only version of him until
foil Reflections, right?
I mean, Reflections was a foil, but the All Good Things was his black border.
So if you could play that Hoshi, you could potentially play Habit of Disappearing in a Starfleet deck and get it out. I mean, you'd have to draw into her. I don't know if she has any way of downloading out, but anyway. That would be it's 3 past Terran Empire personnel, so that doesn't even help.
Yeah.
Soon though, very soon, right?
Yeah.
All right,
but there are plenty of other helpers in here that, I mean, even if you're not playing straight up Terran Empire or past Terran Empire, I mean, like Greater Glory for Cardassia, I see that going in a bunch of decks. Getting you a little boost. If you're playing Cardassia, especially if your opponent plays the station before you, that's a great download.
Yeah, that's a good call. I haven't, outside of Sealed, I haven't ventured into the station versus station, the Cardassian versus Bajoran. I haven't played it yet. I wonder, do you think, I mean, because when the set came out, it was still kind of clunky, and then the Warp Pack came out. That helped a lot, and we've gotten cards ever since. Do you think this is it? Do you think this is probably the keystone, the last card that they get for a while? I don't imagine.
Yeah, it might be. It's pretty strong. I know there was the concern of losing the station on the Fed side because it was so easy to come and take over, and then especially to the Cardassians, and then once that Warp Pack came out, that seemed to balance things out, but it kind of was more heavily favored because Deep Space Nine seeds in the lemma phase, so the good guys always get the station, and so you can still play your outpost and get the free play, but you're not going to get all those sites, and you can play on the station and hope you can come over and take it over eventually, but by that time they've had the couple of turns that the incident fends you off and to get set up, and it's kind of tougher. So this gives you, I think, a little bit more of a help. You can. It's not even personnel. You get 3 cards, and one of them can be a ship, as long as they're DS9 icons. So you're running Reshape the Quadrant. That can be a huge boost to automatically get a ship out in 2 people, any 2 people.
Yeah. What do you think about Renewed Spirit? Nullifies half of a combo dilemma, which is cool. I mean, we still see those. I mean, female love interest, was it female scow and male love interest and plague ship, or I got those backwards?
Yeah, I think that's right. No, I think it's female scow because the guy is on the picture.
Right. Those are still pretty popular. I imagine those are the most popular of all the combo dilemmas.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Nullifying half of it would be pretty awesome. That other part, though, man, it's been since I played Patrol Neutral Zone that I've used universal missions. I mean, now we've got universal missions in all 4 quadrants. So if you're, you got a good chance of being by yourself and being able to get over there and do it before your opponent. And the thing about universal missions is you can play a couple of them, and boy, all matching skills certainly would make your deck design a little bit easier.
I think the key here is that once per mission card title, because
fair enough.
I can't think of the last time I saw somebody using multiple universal missions and they weren't all the same.
Yeah, no, Bat'leth tournaments or
PNZ,
that? Yeah, PNZ.
The Badlands region. I was like, oh, come steal my mission. I'm in Badlands. I'm gonna blow you up.
Yeah.
Or I saw somebody do there's the one that's got acquisition, so they're just like, oh, unless you're playing Ferengi, I'm fine.
The Baku region, was it the
Briar Patch?
Yeah. Again, it always using multiple and always similar. It would be interesting to see. I mean, teaming this up with the dilemmas from the previous sets that really hit you hard if you have universals. If you play a bunch of different ones, I mean, you might get away with. Could you get away with 6? And just if you're playing a really fast deck.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you went both ways, I mean, you could do 3 space and 3 planet, and then you could use both dilemmas and get to use this all over the place. You'd have it in hand in case you hit a combo dilemma, and not worry about the plague ship or the garbage scow, which are obviously usually the more dangerous half of those.
Plague ship, certainly.
Yeah, and then just like, oh, hey, look, I'll unstop everybody.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, the only other card that does that, well, one of the other cards that does it straight up is banned. So, yeah,
it's certainly a temptation to bring out the stealable missions.
And you know that I can think of at least one person who's brought stealable missions before. The one that increases the range on your universal ships from the OTSD. You remember Thomas bringing that once or twice?
Yeah,
running rampant with his Excelsiors or Nebulars or what else he had.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I can see him stocking this and then running that mission again.
Like propulsion test
propulsion systems or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. It's another test mission. Didn't we have something for that?
Ooh, yeah. There's the objective.
Yeah. So all of this put together makes me want to make a deck that's designed to get to those missions first, right? It's between that and everyone wanted to play, in the mirror quadrant because that's what the latest new thing is. Makes me want to put together a deck that's designed to get past my own dilemmas and steal missions, and that's what I would do. That's what their things would do. Because there's 40-point missions like the science party for TNG. That's always so popular. That always pops up every once in a while. Metaphysics shielding test and just all the duplicated missions that you would expect in the mirror quadrant. Just makes me want to just go steal them. Especially if folks are running this, and it doesn't this does say your universal mission, so it doesn't help you steal someone else's universal mission, which I think is an important point. I'm glad they put that
It
on there.
is, yeah.
What else? What else do you like about this stuff, man? The images are great. I think this is that's a great image of Kira and the two
So
guys on insert an undercover agent. You know, there's a guy in the background looking kind of shady.
yeah, I'm a big fan of something I discovered while we were playing. The last couple of months, we've had at least two crossover themed sealed deck events using mirror cards. So we would, have a starter from crossover and then draft mirror packs, or have sealed mirror packs. And both times, the strongest card really fueling my game was the Agony Booth. And I was like, man, this is so strong. In both of these tournaments I played with it, how come I don't use this in my regular mirror deck? And it's just because it plays on tape, or plays instead of seeds. It's just tough to get out. It's not reliable, but when your deck is so small and you don't really have any other options, it ended up being a useful tool in the sealed event. But with Fear, we'll keep them in line, which was teased in the article, but then not linked because it hadn't been spoiled yet. This lets you get all that out right away. You can, this seeds, but then in place of your normal card draw, you can download an Agony Booth or download an Agonizer and have that while you've got it. Each of your ships are boosted, and then you can score points when you solve with it, which was that was kind of teased in the article. But turning the corner is a big problem with mirror. There's usually has to be some kind of trick, especially if you're staying in the mirror quadrant. There's all those 30-point missions.
Yeah.
So that's a big help. And just having that card draw engine built in, man, I can't wait to try this, even if it's not, it doesn't necessarily, I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be a past or an AU deck. So TOS or the eventual hopeful Starfleet Empire. But I think that's going to be a really good asset for them, and I'm looking forward to trying that out.
That sounds good. I mean, you've been playing. I mean, you're when I think about a mirror TOS deck, yours is the one I think of. But that was back when the Terran Empire was all one thing and they were all mashed up together. Now they're kind of teased out a little bit, and if you want to play this, you have to play. You had to get to play the Federation guys or the TOS guys. What is there anything in this set or the previous set that still works with that big mashup deck, or do you feel that you're better off splitting them up?
I've gone through and looked at all the incidents, and the one thing that I haven't really noticed is that is anything really restricting the play.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, there's from the TOS side. If you want to use the station or the headquarters, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. It's mainly if you want to use those engines from the Rebel side. Those are the ones that are like that you have to have reshape the quadrant. That's what breaks it. But
right.
TOS side, all the new toys specify AU Terran Empire, but as long as you have those cards to fuel those, it's a little bit like TUI. I've got 3 Terran Empire folks, so I can use this stuff. I'm good to go. There's nothing that's stopping me from seeding an extra facility so I can play some, some present guys to back it up. Throw in anybody who plays. Basically, everybody plays for free because that headquarters is anybody with the Terran Empire icon.
Yeah,
that is not passed. So.
Yeah, you're right. Looking through, I have to agree with your assessment. I was really expecting it to be paired off a lot more, but you're right. It's just there's no hard limit. That's interesting. So you can just mash up as much as you want. Cool.
Yeah. So this is a lot more friendly to my old style deck, the deck you're thinking of. that original Terran Empire deck than the engines that we've seen in crossover. This is definitely going to be more like, having the time location, having that the protect the timeline will help me come out. I could hop over and to the NOR if I want to include the NOR and start processing ore, and have the other hidden the headquarters out. Now that deck was really seed card heavy. And it was all I could do to get everything out I needed and still have, a decent number of dilemmas out. A lot of the new toys for TOS Empire are seed cards. There's probably 4 or 5 of them. So there's going to be some tough choices. Do I want to include those old guys? I did like the way they interacted. I'm used to having all those different skills. We do have a lot of new guys, some of them universal, which would be nice to have with lower decks and that guy that download lower decks, especially when there are a number of non-aligned support guys that can help with skills now. And that again works well with is it Imperial Intimidation, I think, which is one of the rewards for getting a good probe. You get to play a free non-aligned guy that you've enslaved to help, further the goals of the Empire.
Well, so I remember, back in the day, you had a couple of different builds, and one of them was you just stayed where you were and you doboed until you got to how many points you needed. Yeah. Since you have a greater expanse of missions now, you've got 35-point missions, you got space missions. You don't ever have to leave if you don't want to. And leaving leaving was always pretty easy for you because all you did was download a ship and just beam everybody over, right? That was never a problem.
Well, and that was that was a matter of how I decided to do it for that particular iteration. I used to use the wormholes because it does, everybody used to look at me funny. He's like, oh, Bajoran Wormhole gets all the wormholes, and then you can go back and forth. But again, there's the stoppage issue.
Yeah. And
it was really only a matter of getting the space mission at the end. And pretty quickly, I discovered that, you can, if I throw a space door and an outpost, in the Alpha Quadrant side, I don't need the wormholes, and that way you can't get to me. So I could just beam back and forth. That's a little more restrictive now. Although because of the errata to multidimensional transporter device. But what that has done, which is kind of fun, is it's made me really look at how many missions have come out recently and how many of them are actually match up with an exact, not duplicate, but they have an exact mirror from the corresponding location. And that's really cool. They're not just in the Badlands region, and they're not just in the Bajor region. They're all over the place. They're just random things, and the deck builder is great for that. They actually have, the little, if there is a match, it'll be listed next to the persona, and then it's like, oh, is there a mirror quadrant one? Here you go. Or
nice.
Or more likely, you just go through the mirror ones.
So previously, before the errata, it was you can beam anywhere in the quadrant to anywhere in the mirror quadrant or the opposite quadrant. So you can just go from place to place, right?
Region. It had to be in the same region.
Right.
So
okay.
Yeah.
So you would put your station at a region location, right? Because it would have to be in the Bajoran region.
Yep.
And then you would just beam to anywhere in the Alpha Quadrant in the Bajoran region. But now you'd have to line up your station. Is there a place to line up your station with a space mission? So is there a mirror space mission that lines up with a mirror or an alpha space mission, and just so you could just do what you were doing before?
Well, so DS9, a mirror Terek Nor does not seed at a region. It specifically says it has to seed at Bajor.
Okay.
So you're stuck.
That helps. Yeah.
But you can always play reactor control thrusters and slide it over to the Bajoran wormhole if you wanted, or I actually was looking a little bit into that, and I think there is a new matching location for either the Denorius belt or the other one, the refused immigration.
Near Derma?
Yeah, near Derma.
Yeah, that's Visit Parallel Universe in the mirror universe.
Yeah, so
well, if you since previously the game was, right, you do planet missions in the mirror quadrant and then you beam over and do a space mission. Now, could you conceivably do space missions in the Mirror Quadrant and just beam over and do Bajor?
Yeah, you could totally do that if you want to throw people off. If you're banking on them putting all their good planet combos, in your home quadrant. I mean that is the logical play. You do what you have here, and then you go to the Alpha Quadrant and get the space mission out of the way. But if you want to try to gamble on hitting the weak combos, that you could totally invert that, or just try to do a space mission here, try to do the extra mission.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing Bajor just because it's, you can secure homeworld and you throw a bunch of the Bajor. There are Mirror Bajorans. I mean, to throw at it. There are
absolutely.
You don't have to worry. Actually, it's Mirror Cardassians if you wanted to work them in. That might be a little more difficult, but
and with Bajor, you don't really need secure homeworld because you do have a handful of Bajorans. If you have the present people, and you have plenty of treachery. That was really the problem.
Right. Yeah, that's not an issue anymore. And then you can beam from Bajor to any place on the station. You can do your normal shenanigans of, all right, we're not going to walk. We're just going to beam from here to here and then beam back again because we can go twice a turn.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of eliminates that. That strikes me as something I would want to try and go back, kind of just take that original build because it works so well. I mean, you won a lot of games with that deck, and just do the inverse. Just do space missions in the Mirror Quadrant, and then beam over and do something weird in the Alpha Quadrant. And then if you're playing with Bajor, then you got the potentially another free reporting engine for a seed. You can just throw a bunch of guys in the report over there and just more bodies, right?
Yeah, it's a tough choice. I mean, there are so many options. That's why I enjoyed playing that deck so much. And when we finally got achievements, I raced to the play 10, but it was not the same deck. Maybe twice, right. maybe twice I would play a deck, but a lot of them were half and half, or change something over, throw in Deep Space Nine, play both stations, or have Chamber of Commerce, not Chamber of Commerce, Chamber of Ministers.
You could have
Bajoran Resistance Cell,
both stations at Bajor, and just beam around all day.
Oh yes. The only problem is, or used to be, was that you only get 6 sites. It's not per station. You get 6 sites. So
but
now you can start downloading them.
Go right. Wow.
So, and really, like at one point, the only reason I was putting in DS9 was so I could download Morn on the first turn, and then I would just relocate him to the Mirror Quadrant and hide out so I could get that card draw.
The other quarks, yeah.
Yeah. He's more likely to be unopposed there.
Would you still bother with Dabo since the points are so much more available now?
Yeah, I mean, it would depend on what my mission selection was. If I ended up having close to 100 or 110 where I wouldn't have to worry about that, it is still nice to get that. There's also the other, the new processor, which is a nice little nickel and dime. So if you paired that with Dabo, it might even, with the other bonus point options, maybe you could, pile them all on and not have to do an extra mission. Do one space and one planet, make sure they're in 2 quadrants, and
pick up 30 bonus points somewhere else, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Certainly something to think about. I mean, that's just like you said. There's a lot of options. A lot of options. Do I remember you were playing a bunch of weird Ferengi in one of your builds?
I think you're thinking of Thomas. I do remember him doing that, some weird Ferengi stuff once, pre-crossover, and like I think he was even just doing that in a TNG Ferengi deck because it was weird, and he got a couple of guys and then played a transporter mix-up, and then like here's a bunch of way better guys.
Thomas does enjoy transporter mix-up.
He does.
I'm interested to see. There's a few cards that reference it in this set. I'm interested to see what he does with it.
Yeah. And then we have a reverse.
Yeah, exactly. Get back.
Transporter mid-site called Get Back. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's another 10-point objective. There's a couple of 10-point objectives. Yeah, that should be fun. I'm looking forward to. There's going to be a couple of tournaments, maybe not all in a row, but there's going to be a couple of tournaments where Thomas brings things from this set. Then I'm like, okay, clearly you've thought about this for the last 6 months. All right, very good. Anything else you want to talk about the set?
No, just looking forward to playing it, and it's just going to be a tough decision whether to just have it sprinkle in with my regional deck I was looking at, or just go whole hog and say the hell with regionals and competitive play. I want to play all the new cards.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I've been playing the last couple tournaments, 1E tournaments I played. I've been playing the 1E backwards compatible, sorry, the 2E backwards compatible Starfleet cards. Just gotta get a handle on it because that's what I'm working on now. It'll be interesting to go back to do that now that all these bonuses are in, because we're in the middle of testing this stuff, and it's hard to test with a set that is in the middle of being processed because you don't know if anything's going to change. So now that this is out, all this is going to be added into the testing for the Starfleet set, and it's just going to go nuts. It'll be interesting. Yeah. All right. So it turns out there was a second edition tournament over the weekend. Do you want to chat about that for a moment?
Really, I was looking for it, but I could not find anything.
Yeah. So apparently there was a Thursday. We found that the locals were going to run this tournament, as we mentioned last week, but they found that there was only going to be 3 players. So most of the San Diego folks, had other family obligations or whatnot. You were out of town, and I was at a baseball game, and so they called to cancel the tournament. And then Saturday morning, they realized they could get 4 players. I think JD and Johnny were like, "All right, well, things changed. I'm in now. You want to get together and play?" And so Matt and Charlie got in the car and drove out. So they have a 4-person, looks like a round robin, and Charlie ended up winning with a Mirror Species 8472 deck. So
wow,
Mirror Starfleet and Species 8472.
Yeah, I saw a whole passel of achievements come through for him in the nightly update, and I was like, I thought they weren't playing, but yeah, it ends up he got a whole mess of stuff for this. Mostly mirror related, but also the dilemmas. I'm really curious to see if he won the games he won with the dilemma, the 8472 victory condition. He filed a report.
Yeah, he filed a report
through it
myself. But yeah, it's linked from the tournament page. He filed a report. He's got his deck posted there. In fact, everyone but Matt has a deck posted, so that's pretty good. Looks like JD was playing Klingons with the Nekvar, and Johnny was playing a 5-space Equinox deck, which is exactly the kind of fun things that I would want to play. So I might, man, Johnny's decks are 80 cards. Yikes, that's a lot of cards. That's a big fat.
Wow. So it looks like he did get the dilemma win against JD.
Okay. And it looks like he lost. Yeah.
And he lost to Johnny, but I guess JD also lost to Johnny, or Johnny lost to JD. Well, yeah, Johnny lost to JD, so they tied, but Charlie won the based on head to head. So
nice.
Sounds like an interesting. It's always fun to see tournaments that don't, nobody goes undefeated. So a lot of competitive play.
Man, that is a big draw. I'm looking at Johnny's deck. That's a huge draw deck and a big dilemma pile. You always count on Johnny for just throwing the kitchen sink in there.
A big fat Equinox deck.
Yeah.
Well, this is all. It's only 80 cards. That's fine.
Yeah. I think I built one 80-card deck, and it was because it was an 80-card deck achievement. And I was hovering around, 67, and I was like, there's an achievement. Let's throw a bunch of cards in. Let's see what we can do.
Okay, I don't know if that's necessarily the best way to go about it. Probably actually have a mechanic for getting at those cards.
Well, no, I threw in the package of what was it? The Fesarius? No, not Fesarius. The dudes from the little dudes that get equipment. And I threw a bunch of equipment in. What am I thinking of? Fajo's Gallery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I had a bunch of equipment already. So I think I threw in 5 equipment and then 3 Fajo's Galleries, and then I was it turned out to be an interesting draw engine. So, it rounded out the 80 cards nicely. Yeah, well, I'm not the greatest player, but that was fun. All right. So congrats, Charlie. It doesn't look like they play Tribbles. I don't see Tribbles on here. Wow. Have you been to the front page lately?
I saw it earlier.
Well, you need to
I
refresh
saw
it.
a new icon yesterday,
Yeah.
earlier today, with a little phaser blast.
Yeah, there's a TUI logo on the top left, so this must be a splash for the new TUI set that's coming. The Federation abandoned us, told us to take care of ourselves. Well, that's what we intend to do. That sounds like Maquis to me.
It does sound very Maquis.
And, somebody shooting a phaser sounds Maquilicious. Neat. All right. Let's see. Anything change at the tick?
I don't think so. Well, just a different crossover. But those are all public knowledge now.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like there are any new articles, which is good. I think they're going to let focus on Through the Looking Glass for now.
I'm suddenly reminded of the TUI deck that I took to the regional that I was running, where I played all the archive portrait cards, and it was a terrible deck, but I got them all out in one game.
Was that a cool tournament?
No, it was a regional, and there were a lot of players, so I just wanted to play something fun. I think my rating went down an awful lot of points that day. All right.
Oh, yeah, that's rough. Speaking
of things that are not as great as they are in the ideas, did you listen to Passage to
Mauve? Well, you must not have, since you're pronouncing it wrong, and they say it like a bajillion times.
I was so excited that I listened to it a week ago. All right. Once again, I had a record, and I think it was. I'm not sure which of these this is. It had four of these stories on it. Yeah, and I had a great time listening to it when I was younger, so I thought this would be fun again to go back and here it is, release number 10 that had these random stories on it. I thought it would be fun to go back and listen to these. I feel like they're as canon as the animated series because they were written by some of the same writers. They had that same feel, maybe even more so as directed at kids. But they had that little bit of science fiction background, right? They're all sci-fi stories. Well, okay, so 5 of the ones I can only remember 2, maybe 3. So I can confirm that at least 4 of them had some kind of interesting science fiction background, and I'm going to presume the rest do. And I thought they were interesting at the time. And well, what did you think? I'm prefacing this with horrid. This is worse than the animated series, but it's possible that I could be wrong and you thought something else. What did you think about this audio file?
I believe my exact words were, as we were listening to it, I was making dinner and Caitlin came in about halfway and listened to the back half. And she's like, "What are you listening to?" And I told her, and it's like, well, we basically were like, well, it's better than the animated series.
Wow! All right.
I actually really enjoyed it. Apparently, she did not.
All right. Well, for the audio listeners, Caitlin just appeared in the background and shook her head vigorously. No. All right.
Look, I started at the beginning, and it came on with the classic, here we go, Captain's Log, and then it was interrupted by the meowing cat, which was a little bizarre. But we had the whole voice cast for the animated series, and that really, aside from being like, okay, yeah, it's the voice cast, it really didn't help it. Save it very much. And I thought these guys, I really admired their performances. They did a really good job of, embodying the characters, and they sounded very close.
I thought McCoy was very well done.
Yeah, definitely. Spock had a little bit of an odd accent, but in general, the timbre of his voice was spot on.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk did a good job. The only one that really we had to pause because we were laughing so hard because, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but so we mentioned the cat.
Yeah.
The whole premise of this is that there is uh, a planet that they're opening diplomatic relations with, Moab, where they are taking this passenger, and it's right on the border between Klingon space and Federation space. They're a technologically advanced society. They would be great allies, and they're going to have to choose a side at some point. So everybody's very tiptoeing around them diplomatically to try and get them on their side. So Kirk and company are upset because they think they're supposed to be taking an ambassador, but really they're taking some ambassador's pet. And they're like, and it keeps making noise, and Kirk can't record his log, and so they get it off sickbay. And apparently, in the process, they knock the cage, it opens up, and it gets loose on the ship. And you're like, okay, this is
Awesome.
shenanigans ensue.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking, okay, this is like a little cute short story, and they are. It's certainly, that's how the feel I got. And I guess because of the format, I was okay with that more so than I would be like the animated series, where like this is a show, it's on TV. I expect more out of this. Whereas this was just kind of fun little, and it had the music similar, kind of goofy like Tribbles episode music, and then they finally hit like the sort of sci-fi aspect of it, where apparently this critter, as they eventually deduce, and the audience, I hope, figures it out right away, is that this creature has evolved its defense mechanism as a telepathic or an empathic like projection of its own panicked fear. So anytime they get near it, they start they kind of start getting jittery and anxious and irritated, and also meowing.
Yes, the meowing was a little off,
And,
but I thought that was a perfectly sci-fi wacky kind of thing. It was fun.
totally.
This thing, it evolved to project fear into anything coming near it so that it could get away. That's perfectly reasonable to me.
The thing I did not find perfectly reasonable was when they finally break down and say, okay, we can't contact this race about it, the Moavians or whatever, because we don't want to admit that we let it out. But, we also don't want to hurt it. They're going to be upset about that. So finally they break down like, okay, guys, we're really sorry. It got out. What do we do? And they're like, well, hell if I know. We have no idea how to find one when it's scared either. And their irritation for it being loose completely evaporates. They're like, well, we hope you have it captured by the time you get here. Good luck with that. Out. We've got a meeting. And like, okay. And Kirk gets fed up and is like, all right, I'm going to join the search. Mr. Sulu, you have the con. Who replies, yes, sir. Oh my God, laughing so hard. Apparently he's a pirate cat. But they're like, oh, use this drug, which is from our planet, and of course you don't have, because why would you? All right, well, I guess we'll try it. McCoy, hey, get us some. And then like Kirk and Spock eventually get so overwhelmed by, they get close to it, and it gets more and more intense the closer they get. And they're about there was a point at which it's like Spock corrects him as they're on their way down there, and Kirk's like, hey, I have a really strong urge to like want to really bite your head off right now. I almost turned around and skimmed at you. And Spock says, yes, Captain, I likewise have the urge to something. And I really thought he was going to say to kick your ass. And then they do. They start fighting, and
getting a little,
Deus said, yeah, they're getting a little catty. Thanks.
Yeah.
And then Deus Ex Machina comes in the form of Mares, which was great.
That's perfect.
From the animated series.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm mentally putting all these right after the animated series ends, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we were just talking about how it was kind of cool to have new crew members that would have been difficult to do on the series, like Arix and Maress, but they never really did anything. They were just kind of there, and she had a very important role, and apparently because of her own feline heritage, the Cadians or Caitians, I guess they call them, are evolved from a feline species on their planet. She was completely unaffected by the critters' empathic projections and was able to go in and calm it down. And they, I wanted them to be like, oh, okay, Captain's log, we're totally going to leverage the shit out of this because we've got the
right. They had no idea,
here,
right? That's
and
right.
we're going to be the ambassador's new best friend because we can totally get these pets for them. But they did the very, it was like the end of Tribbles or the end of Piece of the Action where they're like, well, we got it all under control and here we are. But then they even did the sort of jovial twist ending where they call the ambassador and tell him, hey, look, we got it under control. We're here. He's in the cage. It's like, oh, well, that's fantastic. Thank you, Captain. And also, I may have slightly misspoke. We're glad that you have her back in her cage because she is pregnant and should be giving birth, in like a day or two. And it's supposed to take them like 2 weeks to get there. So you'll have like 6 to 10 more. And then like, oh, well, okay. Call Maress, tell her she's pregnant or she's going to be a mom. And then they sail off in the sunset. So it was a little cheesy at the end, but on the whole, it was a cute little. I saw it like a short story. The link that you sent me to it was a YouTube video where they had kind of cut together like stills from, I guess, a comic adaptation.
The comic apparently came with the original record or one of the releases.
Okay.
Yeah,
because that was interesting, and there was very little in the way of what I was afraid of, where they kind of have to do in radio plays. Like the only part I really thought of was when they're like, "Oh, Spock, you're back! Oh my God, what happened?" He's like, "Oh yes, these scratches. I had a,
Yes.
and I had a run in with the passenger buddy. It's like scratches, Spock, half your uniform is gone, and the whole sleeve, and this, and a very detailed description of what you can't see, so that our audience knows what is going on."
Yeah, and that's something that at least one of the other ones that I remember. There's a lot of that because if I remember correctly, they're in a shuttle and they're flying over something and just describing the whole thing for a lot of the episode. But
oh no.
Whatever. You also get the Foley of them clack, 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 walking down corridors with their, sharp boots, which I thought was great.
I really appreciated the Foley too.
Yeah,
it was not bad.
All right, so we've survived this. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Which means that I will push forward and we will watch. Sorry, the next one. Again, this is not one that I'm familiar with, so. We will both be surprised. This is In Vino Veritas, which I'm guessing is in wine there's truth.
Yep.
All right.
So they're all going to get drunk and spill their feelings. Okay.
There you go. All right.
Hey, look. Now, and I'll be the first to admit, we came off the original series or the animated series.
Yes. So the bar was low.
and the bar was quite low, as Caitlin put it. That is not a high bar. And my expectations were even lower given just, the source material, who knows. But overall, the setting, managing expectations totally worked. It was totally not objectionable. There was not any of the glaring plot holes that I've come to be used to from the animated series. It was pretty... Yeah, it's just like a day in the life of when we're not saving the universe. Here's the shit that the Enterprise has to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, this would have been like a webisode, as they put up
exactly.
in between seasons. Yeah, that is one thing that it had. It had a clear beginning, middle, and end, and there were no giant plot holes that you would, run a cat through. All right. Well, this second one is also written by Alan Dean Foster, who fabled sci-fi writer. So we'll see how it goes. I'll post another link into it. I didn't post a link to the actual YouTube. I posted a link to the Wikipedia, or sorry, the Memory Alpha page. I'll probably do the same thing. If you just do a search for in vino veritas and for videos, they usually just pop up at the top. But I don't want to get anything taken down, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. In fact, I just did the same thing, and that is not anything there. So what I'll do is I'll actually post the link because those are all weird videos that are unrelated. Star Trek, maybe? There we go. In Vino Veritas Part 1 and the full thing with... Oh, okay. So what you'll see here, if you do a search, is not only is there the comic book adaptation pictured, there's also this artistic thing that I had seen on one of the other ones. It's like the third link down. Go animate. Anyway, someone actually animated it. Not quite, it's big head guys, so it's not quite animated series. It looks more like South Park. But, they're walking around. And whichever you'd like. The one I chose last time had the much better audio quality. That's why I chose it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I appreciate that.
But, you know what? Yeah, that's it. So one of those two, have a listen. We'll talk about it. They'll be new to each of us next week. There's one other topic not related to the continuing committee of Star Trek. Is there anything else we want to chat about before we go on to that?
No, I had I went to WonderCon last week, but there was not a lot of Star Trek going on.
That is exactly what I was talking about. So how was your trip? And I noticed that are you in uniform right now?
Oh no, well, kind of, yes. I got a new sweatshirt. Several actually. Did some birthday shopping. This is one of the her universe had new Captain Marvel and Spider-Woman hoodies, which are both two of my favorite characters, and they were very helpful at selling them in large. That's where I got my Black Widow hoodie at Comic-Con 2 years ago. Very cool. So I got some of those.
So the way the name tag, I guess maybe you can see it when you're talking. The way the Section 31 name cuts off, it kind of looks like you're wearing a scarf around your neck, and then you've got like rank pips going down the side, your left side there. So I couldn't tell if that was like is that like some bizarro world, dress uniform?
That would be cool, and it certainly, yeah, I could see that working that way. But no the new products out at the con. Had a good day. Friday, just kind of relaxing and walking around, checking things out. We had relatively big costume plans, by which I mean our days were planned with costumes on Saturday and Sunday. So I used Friday to kind of basically scout the convention floor and see stuff that was out and about. A lot of cool costumes running around. Didn't see a lot of Star Trek until Sunday, which was one thing I did promise to mention. I saw a couple of really great Guinans.
Nice.
Which is not a costume you see very frequently, and there were two of them together. So I was like, "That's amazing!" So I stopped, and they're kind of hanging out in front of that.
Was one from the Enterprise C?
No, one was not from the Enterprise C. Although that's funny, but she did mention that they posed. They did the
Q?
The anti-Q pose because they were hanging out in front. There's a lot of the cons recently, the last few years, they've a nonprofit has basically purchased all of the Enterprise D bridge crew props. It's like Save the Bridge because they were going to be auctioned off and everything. And so they bring it to cons, and you can take photos in them, and that helps go to defray the cost and everything. They're hanging out there, and I guess they're doing a web series. And it was like, it may have been a mother-daughter, and they may have just been friends, and they were slightly age different, because one of them looked like about Guinan's age, about Whoopi Goldberg, and the other one looked like a young Guinan, like she could have been like she could have been in the AU, or not Enterprise C, but in with
San Francisco?
Hanging out in San Francisco with Mark Twain.
Yeah.
But they're doing a web series called Guinan the Series, about like a prequel series, and there's a point at which like he calls her Guinan in San Francisco, and she doesn't react, and then I think it's Q says, "Oh, is that what they're calling you now?" And so they're like, "This is my my name is Melora, and this is my story before my name was Guinan. So it's a good little Star Trek prequel series. Some Elorians. I don't know if it's going to be pre or post Borg invasion.
Oh, well, that would be an interesting plot point now, wouldn't it?
Right. So
Huh.
yeah, that has potential to be really interesting. Or especially if they do it before, but then deal with the fallout as it happens.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that could be really interesting. They don't have anything up yet. I went to look for it to watch a few episodes and see if it was going to be any good. If
Looks
I
like
could,
a quick teaser.
yeah. So they have a quick teaser. It's very quick and very teasing. Not a lot of content, but it sounds like an interesting prospect. So I definitely wanted to mention that. That was probably the most Star Trekness that came out of WonderCon. Saturday was all Star Wars and Mad Max. They had a big Star Wars shoot. Unfortunately, our Finn could not make it. We were hoping to have a big TFA group. I was going to be Poe Dameron with some folks, but things kind of fell apart without him. So we took some pictures and hung out, and then I switched to Mad Max so that we could get together with the person who was Furiosa that we were friends with online, who could sort of inspired us to do the costumes, or for me, and we finally got to do it with him like 9 months later. But also so that Caitlin could wear her Splendid Enghard costume several months later, now that she does not need the basketball to have the belly, and it was great. It looked really good, and a lot of people, a lot of our friends knew and got it. We ran into some other Max wives, and one of them was pregnant, not as much, not as far along, but it was like, yeah, it's a great costume, pregnant costume. So that was entertaining, and we ran, got to go meet some artist friends of ours who we hadn't seen, and I mentioned that. So that was a lot of fun, kind of low key. Caitlin forgot her invisible shoes. She made little clear insoles just with clear straps, so she's not barefoot, but it looks like she's barefoot. But she ended up just wearing her sneakers around. And I was like, it's not going to matter. Nobody takes pictures it's like always from like the shins up anyway. And she definitely, that was a good choice, although a comical image. But Sunday was really our sort of banner day, which we dedicated to the 100, which I've mentioned a couple times on the show. I know Debbie's watched it. So I don't know how much you've caught up in the background, but that's the fandom that Caitlin is super obsessed with, and had sucked me in and sucked in. She has actually a pyramid diagram of all the people that she has gotten into the show, and then who they have gotten into the show, which she claims credit for, because it's a small, tiny, precious little fandom that doesn't get a lot of, press. So we're like, we got to get people to watch it so that it'll stay on the air. And surprisingly, it's getting another season. So they actually came to the con. They had the whole cast there, and we had tried to go see them a couple of times and missed them. They were at Comic-Con, but we didn't get to see them in person. We saw them in the panel, but not at a signing. And then they were supposed to be at Dragon Con, the characters that we costume as, and then they had to cancel. And so they had a big panel, which we went to, which was cool. And then they had a signing that you had to raffle for that Caitlin won, and I did not, but our roommate did. And she was like, it's kind of cool, but it's more exciting for you guys to get to go. So she gave me hers.
Nice.
Which was very cool. And we keep thanking her for that, especially since we got to go in and then they saw us and were like, hey, that's really cool. And we get to chat with them in the autograph line. And then the show people stopped us before we could leave and asked if we would mind sticking around afterwards so that they could take some promotional pictures of us with the two of them. And
That's
we're like, hell yeah. Yeah, let me check my schedule. I don't know. I guess I could fit this in maybe just real quick. It was amazing. They stopped a couple of other Raven cosplayers too to take pictures with Lindsay, but it was just amazing. Everybody there was super nice. The cast were very a couple of them we had seen at Dragon Con, and they remembered us, and they said they said hi and asked how we were doing. The guy, Caitlin remembers almost nothing. People keep asking us, so what did they say? How were they to talk to? And like, I have no idea. But Eliza, who was the lead, and that's the Caitlin's character who plays Clark, saw us from across the room when we came in, and she got really excited and made faces, and she kept complimenting her. And Bob Morley, who plays my character, asked my name when we were in line and complimented my costume, and I said words that I don't remember, but he came up when they, it was like 25 minutes by the time later, and who knows how many people in line after that when we finally came and took a picture. But then he like thanked me by name again as they were leaving. So, that was cool. He didn't have to expend that effort, but very nice. Liza was very nice. They were all very cool. And the people who worked on the show were very nice about getting us the picture and taking one on our camera too, so we could have something to remember it. So
very nice.
We got a signed poster and meet everybody and the panel. And so, yeah, that was very exciting, but took basically the whole day. So it was a half hour before the con was over by the time we were back on the floor.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got Serenity and Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, big posters behind you. When are one of those going to change out to the 100, right?
Well, those are, you can't really see them from here, but those are like the full movie-size posters. And so it's not really a TV show. They don't really do full-size posters. But we do have the 11 by 17 frames ready to go. And as we were joking, this was basically baby's first cosplay, so we were like, that has to go in the nursery. Since it's a fan fiction. Yeah. Since you don't watch the show, obviously you wouldn't know, but our characters are not actually a couple, but a lot of the fandom wants them to be. And so there are some significant ship wars, and the fact that we went and as the characters anyway, and she was pregnant was a lot. There was a lot of fan fiction-esque comments after that, like, yes, see, it's happening. Of course, and a handful of the other shippers being like, no, boo. But what are you gonna do?
All right, well, it sounds like this was up in San Francisco.
This was actually in LA. WonderCon used to be in San Francisco.
Right.
Moved to Anaheim while San Francisco was being renovated, and then never moved back. Moved to LA this year because Anaheim is being renovated, so we were a little panicky. But even before the con last week, they announced that it's going to be back in Anaheim next year as planned. So it's a pretty easy drive, relatively. It being in LA was not as horrible as I was fearing, but it was still LA, so I'd be happy to have it back in Anaheim.
Glad you made it back in one piece.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, it sounds like a good time. It sounds like an awesome time. Will you be, let's see, this weekend we have nothing on the agenda. The week after is the 1E and Tribbles Regional. Well, I'm hoping to be around for those. We'll see how it goes. Will you be around for both of those tournaments?
That's the plan. I just have to figure out what to play.
That seems to always be the problem. I think I have a Tribbles deck because the one that I played the last few times, it's been doing well for me. I might just go with the same thing. And there is no baseball game that day, so I think I should be good to go.
Excellent.
That morning is the raffle as well.
Oh, so that's right.
Raffle. So today and tomorrow, today, tomorrow, how many days in this month? 31. So, okay, you got till Thursday. Put your tickets in the bins and before they lock up on Thursday night and do the drawing in 2 weeks. Well, then we'll go have, it looks like that gives me a good hour to get down to the tournament. 11. We'll see how that goes.
So you really need to make sure your deck is done.
Yeah, I will have no time before the tournament to make last-minute changes. And then looks like 12 to 7 first edition, and then 7:30 to 9:30 tribbles. So we'll have a preparation report next Monday and a triage as to what happened the Monday after.
Triage is probably the best description. All right. Well, we clearly have decks to make, so we can sign off here. I am Sarog.
And I'm Sir Dan.
And until then, I will remind you to expand your power in the regional universe.
And I'll draw to end.